So great morning, Arup, and thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. I'm not in Pune. I'm not in Pune. I'm not in the studio, so the light is a bit faint on me. But today is the interaction when the light has to be there. All the spotlight, let it be there on Arup. Because we are going to talk to somebody who is absolutely unique a person. And I'm going to take a minute while talking to the audience about the interaction which we're going to have today. So this is to the audience, friends. So for the last couple of days, I have been conducting some on-the-spot motivational programs for some 1,000 plus audience in Jaipur. I'm in Jaipur. And I always used to talk about one little story, which may not take more than 30 seconds, but I used to tell all the audience in different batches. And the story is all about me standing in front of a woods, a forest, and I see two roads. It's something which has been written a lot about. Once you go to Google, I think people will find it. So I am standing in front of woods and I see two roads diverging inside the woods. Now there is one road on which I see 99% of people walking. I did the same till the age of 45 years. And there is one small narrow road which is taken by hardly any. I think not more than 1% people might be daring to walk on that road. And this is the road on which I see some bushes, some shrubs. And this is the road on which I also hear some scary sound of some animals. And this is uncertain. It's new. It's something which is not right, something which is not tested. And I always used to tell people, and I'm saying this with humility, I became on-the-spot motivational speaker. I have been coaching people. I have been writing books at a fast pace. And the decision to take the second little known road is the decision which made all the difference for me. And this is something which is written by some author, some poet. And this is there on Google. So audience, today we are going to talk to somebody who is absolutely rare. The kind of work which he's doing, that can be counted not on fingertips also. This could be counted on fingers. I'm talking about the head of Srishti Publishers and Distributors. And when I first came to know of Srishti, I was making some Google search and it said that top 10 publishers in the country, and Srishti is certainly among top 10. And actually, there is another story which I'm going to share with all of you. And that is going to prove to the audience that it's the only publishing house in the country. And let me come to that story. And that story is that while there are maybe a few other publishing houses which have got this kind of reach and this kind of credentials which Srishti has, but when it comes to giving chance to people who have got some talent, and when it comes to giving chance to people who also have got a very inspiring, very thrilling story, which has to reach out to the length and breadth of the country, it's only one, and that is Srishti Publishers and Distributors. I would like on behalf of audience to clap, put my hands together for the person who is heading Srishti Publishers and Distributors. And of course, Arup, you also are the co-founder and director of Blue Jay Books Private Limited. So many hats, and now all the entire light on Arup. So, Arup, maybe you can start with something on Srishti and how the journey has been. I think what you are doing is hats off. I know kind of what which you're doing. We'll come to that. And I think let's start with Arup. Arup, over to you to say something.
Thank you, Arun, for having me over for this nice chat. And it's been a pleasure working with you over the past 1 year that we've been working together for our recent book. So Srishti, giving a little brief about Srishti. So the company was started, we just completed 25 years this year in May. Wow. It was started 25 years ago by my father, who already had 2 decades of experience in the publishing industry. He started off with Rupa way back in the late 70s. When Rupa was in itself an emerging publishing house, he worked with Rupa, was instrumental in bringing Penguin, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster and other MNC publishers to India, because they were all being distributed by Rupa in India or had a joint venture in Rupa. So he started off, he joined in the finance department, but ended up working on the marketing and sales team, and ended up heading the team, both the publishing and the marketing and sales team. He also worked with Penguin for a very brief amount of time, 15 days to be more precise, before before he rejoined Rupa again. But the main reason for starting Srishti was one thing that he realized was, in India, the chances of Indian author to get published is very low as compared to, let's say, a foreign author. So in India, if you are a IS or a famous celebrity or some sort of a personality, it was easy to get published in the 90s. I'm not even talking about today. I'm talking about the mid 90s. when a few famous names were getting published, but then they had that sort of pedigree, that sort of background that
Yeah.
people knew them. They had, let's say, some sort of a backing, which ensured that people were comfortable enough to publish them, basically making them low risk and high reward options. However, what sir realized was that there's a lot of authors, a lot of talent who are writing interesting books, but they're not getting the platform to get published. So that is why he started Srishti. Srishti being the creation of this universe by Lord Brahma. So that's why from day one we've been a platform for debut authors, giving them an option, a platform to publish and reach and ensure that their books reach the masses. We started off with we did a lot of translations from Indic languages to English, because we realized, while someone might be well conversant in Hindi, someone might not be able to read the same literature in its original language. Vis-a-vis, someone who is well conversant or able to read in Odia might not be able to read the same. Someone else might not be able to read it in the original language.
Yeah.
And this holds true across the country. So much of amazing literature in our Indic languages out there, but sometimes a language also acts as a barrier, because we have so many languages in our country. So we started off with a very robust translation program. Our books did very well. We worked with a lot of amazing authors. We translated a lot of famous authors from the past, like Vibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay, and so and so forth. We worked with a couple of books of Taslima Nasreen, who was getting very popular then,
Yeah.
and so and so forth. So we started off on that end. We moved on to what is today called commercial fiction. So the first book we did in that genre was in 2006 with Tushar Raheja's Anything for You, Ma'am. Tushar incidentally was a IIT Delhi fourth year student. His book came out within a few months of 5 point someone. So neither he knew that Chetan was writing, neither Chetan knew that another IITian was writing. It was just coincidence. His book, incidentally, is very different from 5 point someone. It was more of a romantic comedy
Okay.
rather
Okay.
than a take on life at IIT. So moving on, I mean, and that is what kind of started the commercial fiction journey in India with these two authors, both of them becoming big then. And obviously, we went on to publish many more authors in that genre. For example, we published Tuhin Sinha, Novanil Chakrabarti. I think for Novanil's first book, A Thing Beyond Forever, we published in 2008,
Yeah.
and his second book, That Kiss in the Rain, 2009. So both of them have successfully completed a 10-year journey with us. We've sold lakhs of copies of these two books. That Kiss in the Rain's sequel was just published earlier this year, and I was having conversation with Novanil about how amazing the journey has been. It started off with two books, and now I think he himself has written 17, 18 books. Some of them are bestsellers, some of them are web series now. So amazing journey again. In 2009 is when we published Durjoy Datta's first book. We published his first four books. We published Ravinder Singh's debut book, I Too Had a Love Story. We published Preeti Shenoy ma'am. Her first book was 34 Bubblegum and Candies, which was a collection of short stories. And her first full-length fiction, Life Is What You Make It, was published in 2011 January. So we again completed 10 years with that book this year. And again, that book has sold almost 10 lakh copies. And that is just in English. I mean, it has been translated in Hindi. I think Marathi is done. Gujarati is on its way. Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Udiya is again on its way. It's being translated in Turkish. The publisher promised August. I don't know. I mean, they've not done it yet. It's a Turkey-based publisher, so they'll maybe take a couple of more months. So again, and like I said, just 10 lakh copies just in English, and similarly, many such amazing stories. Again, Arun, an author that you happen to know very well, Ajay K. Pandey. We
Yeah.
published him in 2015. He's also from Pune, as you mentioned.
Mm.
And again, I mean, I was just chatting with Ajay, and You Are the Best Wife, 2015 November. We sold almost 3 lakh copies now, and I'm happy to announce that we'll be publishing, actually republishing You Are the Best Friend this year in November, which is a sequel to You Are the Best Wife. It was earlier published with some other publishing house, but both of his books with Westland are now coming to Srishti as well. We'll be publishing both of them soon. So yeah, I mean, it's been a tremendous journey, and I joined in 2012. I've grown up around books, with the whole family in in the business of books. I've always been in and around books. I'm also an avid reader. So from childhood, I've been reading books. I've always been interested in books in general, and not just as a business. So post my MBA, I was working in a risk management and mitigation role. After a year, I realized that while that was very interesting, it was something which challenged me. It
Yeah.
wasn't something that I crave to do in the long term. It was something that maybe 1 or 2 more years I would have been happy, but after that, I would have had anyhow, been done with it. So that's when I decided to switch within a year and a half of working in the corporate sector. Actually, not even a year and a half. I think 13 months. So
Mm-hmm.
I quit and I joined Srishti. And yeah, it'll be 10 years next month that I've been a part of this industry officially. But like I said, I've been a part of this industry for almost 30 years now because, since childhood, I've been in and around. So yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing journey working with so many debut authors, so
Yeah.
many established authors. I was talking about Preeti Shenoy. We published Preeti Ma'am's Wake Up Life is Calling in 2019, which is a sequel to Life is What You Make It. As I mentioned, Life is What You Make It obviously has been an amazing, phenomenal seller.
Yeah.
Wake Up again did amazing numbers. Within less than a year, it sold more than 1 lakh copies, and
Wow.
still selling strong. And yeah, and so and so forth. Apart from and I mean, we were just talking commercial fiction. Apart from that, again, we've always been on the forefront of diversifying our portfolio, understanding what the current reader wants, and adapting according to it. So in 2015, we started a new imprint called Quickies, where they were supposed to be quick reads, bite-sized reads and priced appropriately. So
Yeah.
what we did was we came out with 4 books in that imprint. They were pocket-sized books. They were
Yeah.
not your normal full-size books. They were pocket-sized books, and they were also 100 pages or less. Priced them at 80 rupees, and they just did amazingly well. And yeah, I mean, they were proper series. They were all set up as series. However, the biggest feedback that we got from our readers were that they preferred it in a digital version, because this is
Uh,
2016. Mobile
okay.
internet
Okay.
just became very cheap in India.
Yeah.
So we pivoted, and from 2016 onwards, that imprint, instead of being a print imprint, became a ebook only imprint.
Okay.
So there have been years when we've published 50, 60 books under the Quickies imprint itself. They're all ebooks, but that's a lot for one author to write. In fact, May 2020 and April 2020, the 2 months, the first pandemic lockdown,
Yeah.
we churned out, I think, 120 books in Quickies, because we had that sort of bandwidth, that sort of authors, and that sort of content already ready with us. So yeah, I
Mm.
mean, that has been something that was widely appreciated by authors, again, by readers. And again, we were able to create author brands there with, we started off with Shania Taneja, who became, I think in 2018, she was the most searched author on Kindle India.
Mm.
Then we had Chetna Khanna, who has done amazingly well.
Oh.
Then Moitri did a series called Inspector KP Singh, which as a series got
Yeah.
optioned by a leading, production house.
Yeah.
And the good news is that they're moving into production, like into shooting actually,
Yeah.
from next month onwards. So, that is the first short story series in India which was optioned for a web series. Then we did Shruti Priya, mystery series, which is again, still going strong. I mean, we have new stories coming out. Amongst new authors, Kamini has again been writing prolifically in the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
Quickies again as an imprint has been a very interesting ride. We've, like I said, done and experimented with a lot of genres there: thriller,
Mm.
horror, which is something new in Quickies as a genre, and obviously romance and erotica is obviously there in
Yeah.
Quickies. Along with it, with a changing milieu, with readers' tastes also changing. We've also
Yeah.
experimented and moved very heavily into non-fiction. So we have a imprint called Bold, where we're publishing a lot of non-fiction title. We've just published a lot of interesting title in Bold within this year itself. We started off with this book called Classified, where the author, who's a veteran journalist, has done 10 years of groundbreaking research on the ISRO spy case, and it's all validated, proof driven narrative. And I say this because it's validated, because his proof, like his research has gone through the legal/court proceedings twice, and he's won it twice in our country's courts. So again, that book has done amazingly well, and especially with the movie coming out, the book has pointed out a lot of things which were, let's say, hyperbole in the movie and
Yeah.
were not real. Similarly, we did a book on Kakori. We worked with a leading ISKCON guru on a book on management and leadership and self-help. And last but definitely not the least, we just published the autobiography of Yogendra Singh Yadav, who is India's youngest Paramveer Chakra awardee. Paramveer Chakra, for our audiences who might not know, is the highest gallantry award in India. So he was 19 years old when he was awarded the Paramveer Chakra for his actions in Kargil. So the book called The Hero of Tiger Hill is his journey. How he starts off from a small village and joins the army, to that a moment on Tiger Hill where he faces the enemy, wins, and we want to win the war. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just been an amazing journey. We keep on looking at new trends, new ideas, what are people reading, what they want to read, and accordingly, we keep on experimenting, learning, relearning, and changing ourselves, because change is the only constant, right? So yeah, I mean, that's what Srishti has been about, and that's what we've been doing in the last 25 years. So yeah, I mean, that's more or less it.
Awesome. So let me show my background. So you can see a lot of books. People talk about law of attraction. So people say that we attract people, book situations, and thoughts, which we keep on thinking
Mm-hmm.
about. No surprises that the people, including Arup, people, including me, and the books, actually books do not belong to me. They are written by my father-in-law, Dr. Nagendra Neeraj, and some of these books are purchased by him. So he's the director of Yogaram Patanjali. And he's one of those
Okay.
people who again has been walking on the path on which only 1%, maybe less than 1% people trade, because he's one of the best naturopathic doctors across the
Okay.
internationally known. He used to conduct some yoga sessions on the sandy beaches of Manhattan. So we are talking about people who
Okay.
have been walking on that second path. And believe me, I think all the audience who are watching this video, they also have got this seed, and some of them might actually be walking on that path. So
Mm-hmm.
friends, now Arup has said a lot of things. The only thing which I think he has not spoken about, which we'll talk about in next few minutes, is a coffee. We'll come to black coffee, because coffee is something which makes there is something common between both of us, and that is coffee. Because when I wrote my first book for Srishti, it's all about coffee. It plays
Mm-hmm.
a very important role there. So we'll come to that. So
Sure.
audience, I think you might have heard a lot of things which very powerful things which Arup has spoken about. Quickies, lengthies, books across the length and breadth of India, romance, thrillers, inspiration, people who have been Paramveer Chakra Vijetas and Kargil war heroes, and lots of things which he spoke about. I don't have to repeat it. I think you all have heard it. I always tell people that when one person in this world takes one step which is full of courage and conviction and passion and clarity, so clarity, courage, conviction, and consistent action, he ends up changing the entire world. I think in 1970s, Jayant Kumar Bose, your father, he took that
Mm-hmm.
courageous action by leaving a full-fledged job in Rupa, and again he worked in Penguin, but he took that courageous action. I'm pretty sure that the decision would not have been easy, but just look at, I'm talking to audience, just see the kind of ocean of transformational materials which have been there for you to just click, or maybe you can just walk over to the nearby bookstore. And Srishti is known for having separately dedicated stalls in all the bookstores, which are only full of books from Srishti. So I think the reach is awesome. And all of this is happening because of one action of courage which somebody took in 1970s, and that is transforming the world. Awesome. Let's put our hands together for Jayant Kumar Bose, because what he has done is something incredible. Arup, Srishti, the name itself is Indian. Made for
Yes.
India, made in India, and made for Indians. Authors
Yes.
like me. So
Definitely.
awesome. So awesome. So I think it's pretty inspiring a journey. And I'm so happy that audience is watching, or they are going to watch in increasing numbers. Arup, let's come to one thing. You spoke about one thing, and I think people have got a very clear idea about one thing. One very important aspect of Srishti, and that is Srishti is kingmaker. They are the people who pick people from a stage where nobody knows them, and you create superstars. I think so many names you took, right? I think Durjay Datta, Ravinder Singh, I hope they all remember because they are all made kings by Srishti. So how does it feel now, Arup, when you look back on your journey and you see that there are so many superstars who have been created by this one publishing house in the country? And now they are being read by millions and millions of readers. So how does it feel? I think it's like, it must be giving you goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps. I don't know. How do you look at it?
I think, Arun, it's all about, looking at it as a journey, and, not from the perspective that, the ending, but rather than the journey. It's not just the destination, but the journey. So for us, like I was saying, change is the only constant. We've never believed in resting on our laurels that, okay, this is working. So let's, churn out 10 more similar books, or, let's just do this. The intent is to always keep on learning, understanding what young readers are want and how they want it, because the how is also very important, because they might want certain things in certain manner, and ensuring that it's made available to them. So yeah, while it's really amazing to work with amazing authors, and like you mentioned, we've got so many authors who've gone on to become bestsellers, and I'm really happy to say that we have this amazing relationship with all of them, to the extent that we catch up whenever anyone's in town, or when they have a new book out, they send a copy over, specially signed and all, because that's the sort of relationship we have, where it's based on mutual trust and respect. That being said, like I said, in the end of the day, it's like it's a never ending journey. We've maybe reached one landmark and move on to the next one. So yeah, I mean, it's great to work with best-selling authors. It's even great to find new ideas, new authors, and work with them and help them become the next bestseller. Because, like I said, it's all about the journey. It's never just one destination that we're aiming at. Because the point being, tomorrow. Expectation of your readers also vary from time to time. Readers vary from time to time. So it's important to ensure that we are also learning. We are also changing according to the needs of the time, and ensuring that in the end of the day, customer is the king, right? So we should ensure that they receive what they want. So yeah, that's how it has been, and that's how it should be. I mean, that's what we believe.
So first of all, once again, I think thank you so much, Arup, for spending some time while talking to me, because I know that your calendar is busy. Today I've been traveling. I'm in Jaipur. I was just wondering if we can keep it next week, though we had scheduled it for this weekend. And then I came to know that Arup, am I audible? Yeah. Then I came to know that Arup has got his calendar for next 1 month. Every weekend he has got something to do with some author talks, some book launches, and I think a lot of things which are happening. So Arup, so while doing so many things, how do you get some time to enjoy your favorite mug of coffee? I think I can see that you are doing it now, but let's talk about coffee, and then we'll come back to some of these inspiring messages we have been talking about.
So definitely. So for me, Arun, it's actually a very scheduled. Let's say I am in general very plan oriented. I'm sure you must have realized, working with this over the past 1 year, we set up schedules and we tend to stick to it. I think in the last 2 years with the pandemic, which was unprecedented, and no one planned for it. We saw a little bit of let's say changes in our schedule, but usually we set up a timeline in terms of books that we want to come out in certain months, and then we stick to it. So similarly, in terms of daily day-to-day activity, I kind of have a tentative schedule around which I plan to stick to and ensure that it doesn't go awry. So for me, coffee is also a part of the schedule. I have 1 cup of black coffee every day at around 11 o'clock. So I'll get my cup of coffee now. I mean, in half an hour maybe. Lakanji, who's at the office, he makes it. I just have coffee when I'm in office. I'm very particular about it. I don't have coffee while I'm traveling or on holiday, because it's not like something that I'm addicted to. It's just that while you're in office, it's good to have a cup of warm beverage. It gives you that additional let's say boost of energy. So yeah, I mean that's more or less it from my perspective. I mean, if it's been a long day, tiring day, maybe once in a blue moon I'll have maybe a second cup of coffee or a coffee at a different time, but mostly I have this schedule at least in place where, I have coffee every day at 11 o'clock. And again, like I said, during working days. So not like Sundays or, during holidays and all, or when I'm traveling. And I'm mostly comfortable with it because, I've never been a coffee or a tea drinker. It's mostly in the last 10 years, 10 to 11 years that I've been working that I got used to drinking coffee. So I'm not really a coffee drinker per se, but yes, if I have to have a cup of hot beverage, it has to be black coffee without sugar. That's how it rolls for me.
So I recall, thank you so much, Arup. I recall having been to Pondicherry quite a few times. I used to go there for business reasons. So while traveling from Chennai to Pondicherry, I used to stop at places which used to offer Kumbakonam degree coffee. So I've been very particular about Kumbakonam degree coffee. When it comes to you are particular about Kurg Wali black coffee. So I always tell my mentees,
Yes.
that we all are different. People are copying today. Everybody is unique. And it's just one example on lighter note. I always tell people that even within coffee, there are two different types of coffee. Even in the field of motivation, people can motivate by writing, by talking, by coaching, and by doing different things. I've seen people having motivated people without even speaking anything. So the message to audience is that always remember that your talent, your passion, there is one micro niche which is not easy. You have to actually manage to layer in multiple layers before people come to their particular brand and color of coffee and Kurk coffee, right? So audience, this is for you. We are just making a comparison. We always have to ensure that we do not copy anybody. We just do what comes closest to our heart or the things which we think we are made for. So coming back. So Arup, one thing. I think you seem to be a person who is very disciplined because I think you are in 0.0001% people who is happy only with one mug of coffee and you do not take coffee on Saturday, Sunday. So Arup, tell us how to be that kind of, how to bring that kind of discipline in our life. It's something which is very, very rare because I think I can make out that for you, coffee is a part of your work. It's not something which you do for the sake of having some pleasure. So how do you stay that discipline that 11 o'clock coffee and then only while working you take coffee and then on holidays you do not take? I think it's this very, very focused approach that we are talking about. Something on this, whatever you want to share.
So, no, I understand what you're asking, Arun. So I guess, for me, I mean, it's very simple, something that I was told when I was very young by my father that, your habits shouldn't control you. You should be in control of your habits. And I totally agree, So when it comes to having habits, and that includes reading as well. And like I said, I'm an avid reader. I've realized that, we shouldn't have habits which control us. And in the long run, that does make a lot of difference. So, yeah, I mean, so that has been my guiding principle in terms of, most things that I do. And like I said, I try to keep it very scheduled. Again, like they say, the first casualty of war is your plans. So similarly, I believe, the day starts off, by 9 o'clock, most of the plans go for a toss. For example, we had earlier scheduled this, this meeting for 9 o'clock, but, I had to travel to office and also it became 10 o'clock. So like I said, the first casualty of any war is the plan. So similarly, while we can, we might make multiple plans, they do go for a toss. So that's why the second guiding principle that I follow is plan for the worst, hope for the best. So before going to sleep every day, I have a diary, I've been, and again, not a dear diary types where I write my emotions, but a work diary where I write down the main points that I have to take action on the next day. I take out, let's say, half an hour before going to sleep or maybe having dinner. Whenever in the evening, I take out that half an hour to plan my day for the next day. And it doesn't have to be, let's say, a fixed thing that between 9 to 10, I'll do this because it could happen that some emergency comes up. And I personally notice this, that the challenge is when I decide that between 10 to 11, I'll do, let's say, I'll take action on point one. But unfortunately, some emergency comes up, which is maybe 0.9 or not even in my list. The challenge that happens is then you are a little flustered. Kya 0.1 karna tha, what will happen to 0.1 now? So we have to be a little flexible, but at the same time, we have to be a little strict so that I have listed on 9 points, but have an amount of time. So while I don't mean that we rush through our activities and do a shoddy job, but we just need to ensure that we do it. And last but not least, the third point, something that I read somewhere a long time back. I forget the gentleman's name, but this gentleman, the late early 1900s, he's an American guy. I will find out the name and maybe share it with you later, Arun. He's supposed to be the father of, let's say, what was it? The father of, let's say, managing your time better or something of that sort. And this gentleman said something very interesting. He's like, so his approach was very different from mine, वैसे तो. But he's like, let's say jot down 10 points and don't move from point 1 to point 2 until point 1 is done. If you realize that there's, let's say, 1 point in your list that you've delayed for more than 3 days, then that means that you're procrastinating it, and either you're afraid of doing that or it is actually not important. So if you're afraid, then you get over your fear and do it, or it is either not worth doing, so you let it go. So like I said, I mean, while I don't totally subscribe to that theory, because, you can't just stick at point 1. You might have to do point 3 first because situation demands it. But I agree on the second half of his theory that, if there's one point that I don't do today, I will move it to tomorrow's list. I don't do it tomorrow or maybe the day after. Then I immediately, introspect and see, is it something that I have hesitation, mental or some block against doing that? If not, then maybe it's not even worth doing it. And that is why subconsciously I have decided not to do it. So, these are 3 guiding principles which help me, plan, keep my day scheduled, my plan of action in place. And yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of difference, because these are the 3 ideas and, let's say, principles that I follow, which has helped me, because like I said, earlier, I saw that, there would be a lot of things that we would have in mind that let's do, this and this and that. But in the end of the day, none of it would get done. So that's when I realized that, having a little more plan of action, that makes a lot of sense.
I think you said something which is very, very, very important for the audience to note. Very important, because I believe in this. You said something that the first casualty of war is the plan. And believe me, audience, I think Arup is one person who told me that, Arun, let's not have any kind of script, some questions and answers. You don't have to send any list of questions or points and all that. Let's keep it free flowing. So this interaction is absolutely 100% free flowing. Isn't it, Arup? I think that's the best way of having some energetic interactions, which also are full of nuggets of actions and wisdom, which people can pick from this interaction. Awesome. So Arup, when you, I'm pretty sure that you must be reading a lot of books, because I can see that while listening to, I can see that you've got lots and lots of wisdom, full of action, which people can take and they can transform their life. So how does it feel while reading through so many books? Because I'm pretty sure you must be reading a lot of books and getting enriched with each passing day. Because I think जैसा कबीर दास जी का एक दुआ है ना, कि दुआ है कि जो इंसान इत्र का व्यापार करता है, इत्र साथ में लेकर चलता है, अगर कोई दूसरा इंसान उससे इत्र नहीं भी खरीदेगा, फिर भी उसको सुवास होता है ना, जो सुगंधी तो मिल जाती है. The person who is selling perfume, he himself has got all the good vibes and good fragrance around him. So how does it feel to be in a profession which by default gives you lots and lots of action points and wisdom? So maybe I'm going to invite you to be one of the motivational speakers along with me.
Definitely, I'll be more than honored to join in. See, I'll be very honest. Like I said, for me, books, I've been an avid reader since I was a child. So for me, books is not about, let's say, something which is, I think the video is back. So for me, books is not something that, something that is work. So for me, reading is actually enjoyable, something that I do in my pastime. So, I again, don't set a target per se that, I have to read X number of books in a year or a month or a day. I see, it's very trendy to have a, reading target list these days from the last quite a few years. But for me, that's not really important. What is more important is that, we enjoy what we are reading and we relax, we learn, we evolve when we read. As simple as that. So honestly speaking, on an average, I do end up reading somewhere around 100 odd books in a year. And this is excluding books that I read for work. So let's say we publish around 50 books a year. So I ensure that out of 50, at least 45, or and 45 is just a random number. There are times that I end up reading all 50 also. The intent is, by the time the book goes into print, I should know what the book is about, because otherwise it's wrong, right? I mean, imagine you as an author, you're having a conversation with me and I don't know what book you've written. Then half of the conversation between us is just faff, or let's say hyperbole. Secondly, it also helps in planning, marketing, targeting, and how to improve the sales of the book.
Yeah.
So that's why, in fact, as an organization also, we have a very deep reading culture. Most of our sales team and all, they also read books, which is something that I don't see in our industry much. The editorial team is concerned with the content and the sales team is just concerned with sales targets and achieving them. Whereas we have this bi-monthly thing, twice, the second and the fourth Saturday, from 12 to 2. We and the team sits together and we just discuss the books that we published in that month, and what they liked about the book, if they have feedback, suggestions around the book. And sometimes the feedback coming from a sales perspective is very important. Sometimes also they have a perspective of a third person, which let's say an editor might not have. And last but definitely the most important, they have perspective from the market as well, because they have spoken with multiple retail partners, multiple online, offline, book clubs, your some of customers as well. And they get a lot of feedback from those guys as well, that iska cover waisa hota to better hota, ye maybe this sort of content would have been better, and so on and so forth. So that helps us, that's why I was telling you, right? I mean, the intent is to keep on changing and evolving, and reaching out to new new and newer readers via new mediums, new concepts. And that is one of the major reasons why we are able to do that, because we have this whole reading and learning culture even in the organization per se. So yeah, I mean, it becomes it becomes important to know what we are publishing, so we do that. So like I said, we publish around about 50 books a year, so I aim to read most of them, if not all. And apart from that, yeah, I do end up reading 100 odd books approximately. It can be 80, it can be 100, it can be 120 also. But on an average, 100 books a year for my own pleasure as well. So yeah, I mean, that's how it has been.
So the audience, I think, let's go back to what I said right in the beginning of this interaction, that Arup has been one of those people who has been walking on a path which is meant only for maybe 0.1. Now I know it's 0.0001% people. Because a person who has been reading 100 plus books, in addition to the books which anyway he has been reading as a part of his work, is something which is absolutely incredible. Let's put our hands together. Okay, I'm looking for Arup being there in some of those on the spot. I call it on the spot motivational talk. So for example, Arup, over the last 2 days, what I did, I had 12 hours of interaction with 1,000 plus audience in different batches, and I didn't carry a single slide. It was all while just talking to people, looking to their eyes, making them smile, asking them to talk about something, and then you start the story of the real life story of motivation from there. So that is what makes me so excited when you told me that, Arun, let it be free from any Q&A. Let's just let it just flow. Let it be a free conversation. Amazing. Arup, one thing. So let's talk about budding authors who might be watching this video. They want to reach out to Srishti. So we spoke about many names like Nomonil and Durjoy Datta, Ravinder Singh, and many people, Priti Shuna, and many people who have become superstar now. When you get a manuscript from one of these people who are at the moment not known to any person, including to you, what is that which you look for in some of these fresh manuscripts? I think it's something which is going to guide, show the path of these people. Yeah.
Sure. So Arun, I think, something, the first point that I and everyone in the team looks at is how the proposal has been sent to us. So we have a very simple process, we've shared it multiple times on social media. It's there on our website. The submission process is pretty simple. We need certain documents, which are, let's say, 3 sample chapters and a detailed synopsis of the book, a little bit about the author. If the author has a marketing plan, maybe that. But what catches our attention is how they have sent it to us. Is it, and there's a reason why I'm saying it, we receive 30 to 40 proposals a day. Some of them are, a email with no subject line. Some of them are emails without a subject and no content inside it, like there's no body of the email. Those are red flags, because if someone is writing, they should also understand that, let's be a little courteous to the person who's supposed to read it. Because if you expect someone to put in 30 minutes of their time and read it, that person can expect you to give 5 minutes of your time and write a decent email. The second is even worse, which is, they write PFM. Please read. uh, Even worse than that, you have to tell me within XYZ days. So see, I'm not saying that we are doing you a favor by reading and reverting back to you, but at the same time, it's not fair for you to also be rude to someone who's evaluating your process. So that's one major aspect that we consider, while looking at proposals, that how the let's say the initial mail, the forwarding letter has been written. That makes a lot of difference. Basis of that, we do take some decisions. The second thing is, we look at the content, how what the story is it something which is interesting, is it something which is unique, is it something which stands out. So like I said, the intent is to come up with newer and newer content. So from time to time, we look at, let's say, if there's something which has been not explored before. For example, romance. Net it is like two people will meet, they will fall in love, and they will live happily ever after. But that doesn't, by that logic, no other book on romance should be written. But there are so many books being written because there's a different story to it. Maybe what happens, how they end up together, do they stay together, and so on and so forth. There are so many permutation and combination to it. Similarly, the writing style, is it been written in a different way? Is it been written in a simple way? A question that a lot of debut authors have is that, my grammar might not be up to the mark, my book is not edited right now. Will that lead to rejection? Honestly, from our perspective, no. We don't reject books just because of the grammatical bit or the language bit. We, like I said, look at some basics. Is the person writing a proper introductory email? Is he polite enough? Because see, these are basic building blocks which do make a lot of difference in the long run.
Very important.
And the second and the most important thing is, has he written something which is unique, interesting, and has potential readership? Language is something that can be worked on together between the editors and the authors. That doesn't obviously mean that it's someone who doesn't know how to write at all. It means someone who has an average or even below average writing skill. That is fine, because writing as a skill can be taught. But storytelling is something which is intrinsic and inherent. Not everyone has it. So that's why we do stories. People who have that, they definitely get selected by our editorial team for publishing. And yeah, then we move forward with the process.
So I think this is very interesting. So the audience, I think, have taken a note of it. First of all, the way you make the proposal, the way you send the proposal is very important, because we are talking to somebody whose team is getting some maybe 14,000, 15,000 proposals in a year, if you see the rate at which they are getting proposals. So the way you put the proposal is very important. Second is some kind of marketing plan, which also Arup spoke about. Most importantly, he spoke about the content, which is very important. I think, Arup, coming to the content, this story thing, I have personally seen that everybody has got some talent, which is given by, you can call it God, source, creation, universe, whatever, source of creation, whatever. So there is something which is there is seed which is there within them. Do you feel that the storytelling or the way somebody writes a book which catches your attention, we are talking about the content part, is something which can be learned, or which is something which is inbuilt? I think I know that it's a part of it is inbuilt, but yeah, do you think it can be learned by people?
So I think writing definitely can be learned. The art of writing can be learned. It definitely can be improved. Some of the best writers, some of the best-selling names that I spoke about, one common thing that I've seen in every best-selling author's name that I took in this conversation, they will never say that, the book that I wrote 3 years ago, that was my best, because, uske baad to I never had anything new to learn. They're always saying that my latest book is the best because I learned something new. So some of these best-selling popular authors, I know for a fact that they're taking not just, they're not just learning by reading other books. And by the way, yes, most of them read very voraciously, apart from one or two who claim publicly that they don't read. But most of them read very voraciously. They read not just genres across authors. Their intent being to learn the skill of writing. And I also know for a fact some of these authors actually go on to take paid learning, writing skill sessions, wherein they learn the art of improving their own writing skills. Because see, there can be someone else who might teach you something that you might not already know. Some of these sessions are, or let's say
Yeah,
these
yeah,
courses are pre-recorded, some of them are live. Now, thanks to the pandemic, a lot of these events happen over online platforms and all, where you can, just pay and learn it at your own leisure. So the art of
yeah,
writing, yes, definitely 100% can be taught, and it is something that has to be learned every single day. It is something that has to be improved every single day. Now, the talent for storytelling, the talent for coming up with good stories. Now, I personally believe that is mostly a intrinsic talent that comes from, like you said, it's a God-given gift. Not everyone has it, because again, everyone who learns how to write doesn't end up becoming an author. We all know how to write, but not everyone is an author, right?
yeah,
So that, I think, is the major distinction. So I really wouldn't say that it is something that can be taught. But yes, again, there are certain principles which can be inculcated over a period of time by, reading more books, exploring different genres, being in touch with, the reading and writing community. And we have vibrant communities across most, at least most metropolitan cities, and
yeah.
slowly and steadily, increasing in our smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. So I think basic, let's say, basics can be inculcated. But
Yeah.
yes, most of it is maybe a talent which is given by God. That's why I use the word talent for storytelling and skill for writing, because writing is a skill which can be inculcated. But yeah, I mean, storytelling is a talent that not everyone might have. So, but
Awesome.
last but not the least, some of the basic aspects can be inculcated by, exploring a few things.
Awesome answer. I think the way you have explained is absolutely holistic response. So I think there is a good news for people who are watching this interaction. So a part of it can certainly be learned. So you can certainly attend some of these courses which will teach you as how to write. And of course, you can use some imagination, think about some of your past, kind of life stories. I mean, some stories from your life and something which you have personally gone through. Then you can try kind of, writing something. So which is great. Arup, you have been reading a lot of books. You are one of those readers who are in top 0.0001% people, because you are reading 100, 150 kind of, books every year. Would you like recommending some of the books which you think are going to help upcoming authors, for authors people who want to become an author? So some of these books which you would like to recommend?
So again, like I said, no, Arun. So for me, reading is something that has to be done at your own pleasure and leisure, and it is something that you should learn from. So I really wouldn't recommend something, because
Yeah.
that would mean suggesting that, okay, this is one book which fits all. Because and specifically you mentioned, for upcoming authors. So there are many great books out there. You can pick up a classic, you can pick up something contemporary. But yeah, I always recommend a few authors for people to read. If you're a author in India, an Indian author looking to get published in India, I know it's very popular to look down on him, but I personally think that we should all read Chetan Bhagat, understand what he's doing right. Because in the end of the day, like he said, in this stand-up comedy show that he did last year for Amazon Prime, that I'm not the best writer, but I'm the best-selling writer. And he's right. He just made fiction more accessible. He ensured that it reaches through the masses.
Yeah.
And the way he did it is with easy language, and secondly, ideas which are global across the country. It's not just one part of the country, but
Absolutely.
across the whole nation. Maybe it resonates with people in big cities to smaller cities, from villages and towns to, let's say, your metropolitan cities. So the way he's been able to do it, that is definitely amazing. So that's why, like I said, it's very trendy to look down on him, but I personally think that we should read his books to learn what he's gotten right, and
Yeah.
obviously learn what he's not doing wrong, right? What he's doing wrong, right? I mean, if you don't like his language, you improve your writing skills.
Yeah.
But don't deride him, because he has done something right, which is why people are still reading him and so that is one suggested, let's say, author. And apart from that, there are so many amazing authors out there. Again, my suggestion is that read more contemporary authors rather than just classics, because while we get a piece of literature from classics, again, they were written a long time ago for a different audience. Look at what are currently trending the bestseller list. That gives you an idea about what is working. So maybe that narrative style works, maybe that style of writing works. So look at those aspects and then choose your models accordingly when you are writing. So really, I mean, I wouldn't really recommend any one particular book for upcoming authors, but yes, I would recommend that you would actually look at all the popular books. And last but not the least, don't limit yourself. You are reading to one genre. Read in multiple genres. While I recommend authors to still, stick to certain genres that they are experts at, because it makes it easy for their audience to also identify with them. But when you're reading, don't stick to a genre. Read across genres. Then you learn more. But obviously, writing and reading, again, two different aspects. So that's more or less it.
Awesome. So I think this question was about from the perspective of the audience, from the perspective of the upcoming authors. If you talk to Arup, and Arup, if you can share some of these all-time favorite books which you loved reading the most, it's all about you. Would you like to share some names which you loved reading?
Definitely. So some of my all-time favorite books would be. So I read a lot of thrillers. I read a lot of Technomancy is one of my favorite authors. So his book Red Storm Rising, that's a massive showed what World War III would be if US and the USSR went to war. Still a classic. It is still a part of course curriculum across major military institutes, including Indian Military Academy here in Dehradun. So that is one book that I definitely love reading. I am a big fan of Robert Hoodlum. The Bond series is his most popular one. I weirdly don't like that, but there are a couple of his other books that I really enjoy reading. So Robert Hoodlum, Tom Clancy are two of my classic reads. In more contemporary, more recent authors, I have loved reading Vince Flynn, who passed away a couple of years ago. So I've read his complete series. Then there's this author called Jim Butcher who writes in the urban fantasy genre. He has this series called the Dresden Files. Again, a 22 book series, out of which 15 have been written. Game of Thrones, I am a big fan. I started reading Game of Thrones way back in 2009-10. And then again, the series came out in HBO and all, and then it became a international phenomena. So yeah, these are some books that I've enjoyed reading over the past few years. In nonfiction, again, I do read a lot of nonfiction. In nonfiction, I read more business and politics and let's say finance. So this book called Lifestyle Investor in nonfiction that I enjoy reading. Then there's this book, let's say, which actually, I forget the name of the book, but it's about the rise and the fall of the Lehman Brothers, starting from how they started till 2008 when they collapsed with the subprime mortgage crisis. And last but not the least, there's this amazing book called The Killer Elite, which was again written by an American author, kind of, starts from 2001, September 11, and goes on till, I think, 2014, capturing the whole war and, how the impact on the various countries and societies across the globe have been affected in multiple ways and how culture has changed, So yeah, these are a few books that books that I go back and read. Oh, and definitely last but not the least, and not to forget, Harry Potter. I love the Harry Potter series. I tend to reread it once a year.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure that audience can connect with the kind of books which you spoke about. Arup, I think we are coming close to the kind of last few minutes of this interaction. Would you can you just check if you can open the video so that we can close in last 5 minutes time while looking at if this works, or else
Arun, I'm really sorry. I've been
no problem.
I'm really sorry. I've been trying regularly.
No, absolutely. No,
I'm getting this message called failed to start video camera.
Okay, no problem.
So great.
we'll carry on.
Great.
So, Arup, another thing. So, you have been helping so many people, in writing their books. I'll just try if I can do something here. Just a moment. Just a moment. So, you have been helping so many people in getting their books published. Suppose there is a book written on the life and experiences of Arup Bose so far. What do you think would be the title of that book?
I really don't think that it'll make for an interesting read because, again, I've not done anything interesting or unique. So I think the story of a average person would be a more apt title. Because honestly speaking, I'm just an average guy doing my work, doing something that I love. So maybe that's the only difference.
So, I think
Most people that I know.
These are some of the books which are going to, I think, these are going to make a great reading, because I know Karan Johar and Unsuitable Boy. Before that's a Suitable Boy. So there are a lot of, I think, genres which people have been loving. So, Arup, one thing, from the same book, can you tell us about a couple of chapters which would be there in the book, which would be written on you? 2 or 3 chapters.
I think we mostly covered those in our conversations. Most part of my life is in and around books. So yeah, I mean, it will be based around work and books and reading experiences, and yeah, I mean, my childhood maybe, and schooling and college, because again, a very important and formative part of your our schooling and our college. And I have been lucky enough to go to some of the best colleges and schools, and had amazing teachers and more importantly, amazing friends. More than teachers, amazing friends made a lot of difference. So that'll be, but I mean, rest I think would be all work.
So I think I also saw that you have worked for, I think, a couple of years, maybe less than that, in the field of risk mitigation
Yes,
and something like that. So how do you see that you mitigate the risk before you take a decision to publish a book? Do you use some of the lessons in this?
Yeah. So that is actually something that we definitely look into. Like I said, the points that I mentioned, who doesn't have the patience to write a basic covering or a forwarding letter, that person in general lacks patience or politeness. So I know for a fact that is a person who's going to be A, difficult to work with, B, that is a person who won't connect with his readers because he's going to be a little bit off in terms of his communication with his own readers. And today successful authors are authors who are communicating with their readers. They're connected. So that is one such risk mitigation practice. Looking at if the content is actually new and unique, that is the most important risk mitigation practice. Because if it's like the same old story, then we know that it's just boring. It won't lead anywhere. So yeah, these are certain activities that we do because they do make a lot of difference. And yeah, last but not least, looking at what the author's social media profile is he someone who's keen on promoting the book, and so on and so forth. These things do make a lot of difference. While on paper they might sound very let's say random, or let's say
but they do give a tendency.
But these points do make a lot of difference because because in the end of the day, today it is the world of it's a digital world. Most of us connect with mass readership over digital platforms only. Now thankfully with COVID norms relaxing and the pandemic receding, we are having you mentioned that I have a slightly full calendar, because we have, like, even tomorrow we have a book launch, and the subsequent having those is because the pandemic has receded and numbers are going down in terms of positive cases, thankfully. And COVID norms are relaxed, but still you can't have a audience of 10,000 people in one place because it's just not possible. So you can have 35, 40, 50, 100 at most. Some of the best launches that I've been to or organized or been a part of had 100, 150 readers, not more than that. But on your Instagram, you can have 50,000 people also connected with you, right? Out of which at least 10,000 can be active connects, right? So that's why a digital, your digital, and when I say I mean any author's digital footprint makes a lot of important factor, because that's the sort of audience he usually reach out to. So yeah, as we look into which help us in mitigating risk, we can predict what will readers actually like and what will readers are not. I can predict a few things that okay, in today's day and world, people enjoy reading about their roots. So maybe
Yeah.
something from our history or maybe something patriotic. But exactly what in history, till what level of research do they want? All that can only be learned by doing more market research, actually reading current books. That's why I said we have to read popular books. We have to
Yeah.
read best-selling books. Talking to people, talking to readers, connecting with retail partners because they are at the forefront, so they get a lot of feedback. So all of those activities also help us in mitigate risks.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. So that's
Hello.
great. I think it's amazing talking to Arup. I think this is amazing. Just one more thing I was just thinking about. I've seen that, for example, when my book got published, it's absolutely impeccably neat and clean when it comes to typos. I've seen that in certain cases, though I think it's something which is taken for granted. But I also came to know that when I did some research that even in case of some of the best-selling books which are selling very well across the world, there were some kind of mistakes which people found later on. But in case of Srishti, I've seen that the editing is done so well. So on a lighter note, Arup, have you come across any such situation when at 11 o'clock you are enjoying your favorite black coffee and then you are also flipping through the pages of a book which is going to be published tomorrow and then you see that there is something called typo there?
Right. So Arun, I'll be very honest. The intent, or let's say the process that we have, and we do in every book that goes to the press, multiple round editing, as you experienced, a lot of
Mhm.
softwares we use to ensure that typos, grammatical errors are not there. Both human and machine, which play an important role in ensuring correction, this high degree of accuracy. But in the
Yeah.
end of the day, what we are aiming for is 99.99.
Yeah. Percentage of accuracy. I think Arup, you are not audible over the last few seconds. We'll just wait.
Am I audible
Yeah, yeah,
now?
Arup, I think we just missed
Am
over
I
last
audible?
1 minute. If you can repeat some of the things which you said over the last 1 minute,
Yes, yes,
that will
I'll
be
do
good
that.
for the audience. Yeah,
No, no,
thank you.
definitely, I'll do that.
Thank you.
So
Thank
what I was saying is, we, the books that go to print before going to the printer, the book goes through multiple rounds of editing via at least two different editors,
you. Yeah.
and we use multiple softwares also to check for typos or any other proofing errors, grammatical errors, anything. Combination of both human element being stronger and some technological slash machine element also to ensure that no grammatical or no typos or no errors are there. That being said,
Okay.
it is the aim is to achieve 99.999% accuracy because that's the Six Sigma level, which is used by, let's say, all airlines and
Six
Toyota and
Sigma,
so on and so
Six
forth.
Sigma, correct. Correct.
Because beyond that, we have to give that 0. Yep, yep. Because beyond that, we have to give 0.01 also,
No, no, absolutely understood.
that's the level where it will be, go on. So, to be very there have the first printed copies have come in also, and there have been cases where it's just been 100% error free. So in the end, it's a game of averages. There would be one or two books where there are definitely one or two errors. I'm not denying that, because like I said, right, 99.99% accuracy. So that 0.001% might get triggered in certain books and might not in certain other books. So it's a game of averages there. Again, some errors are so small that they're not even noticed
Yeah,
by the authors or readers, but maybe they stand out to us from a technical perspective, and we get that corrected. But yeah, like you said, even with best-selling books globally, there's never there's never
yeah.
100%
Nothing,
accuracy,
yeah. No,
because
nothing. Thank you so much,
in the
Arup.
end of the day.
Yeah, no, this was on a lighter note actually, because I know for sure that the book which I have which has been published by Srishti, which I have written, I've seen that it's absolutely impeccably edited. So I think
Definitely.
I think amazing talking to you, Arup. Any last word of advice for today's interaction? I'm pretty sure that this is the beginning. We are going to have a couple of more interactions. So maybe when the Wi-Fi also network is better, we'll certainly have video interaction later on again. But any word of advice, any thought which you would like to share with the audience of this interaction, this particular interaction today? Any thoughts, any kind of things which you would like to share?
Nothing much, Arun. I mean, it was lovely talking to you. An amazing question and answer. I think I had the chance to share a lot of things. One last thought for readers, again, at the sake of repeating myself, maybe for the third time about this. I think reading is a wonderful activity. It is something that us grow mentally, and it helps us in multiple aspects. I have seen people grow not just actually mentally, financially, because you benefit from reading, from learning, from understanding new things. And I just don't mean that read books on finance. Just by reading, you might learn a new skill, which might lead to delta increase in your earnings and income. So reading is something that I personally recommend to everyone, young or old, employee or a startup person, or someone who's self-employed. It is something that I recommend, and not because I'm in the business of books, but because it is something which helps develop a person's mind, personality, psychology, everything. So yeah, I mean, people should keep on reading, and like I said, it has to be something for their pleasure and leisure at the same time. It doesn't mean that you only read or only stick to non-fiction books, where you are learning 10 steps to make make new friends, or 10 steps to improve your memory power. Maybe read that if you feel that you have that need, but also read something that interests you. Like I said, some of my favorite books are thrillers and fantasy, and in non-fiction also, books on politics and finance, because these are things which interest me. So that's what I recommend to readers, that look at books that interest you, pick it up, slowly start reading, and 10 years down the line, you might be reading something very different, very unique than what you started off. Because again, reading is a path of growth. You grow as you read. So yeah, I mean, from something that you're reading today to something that you'll end up reading, like I said, start on the journey today if possible. Because the sooner you start, the sooner you reach that end version of you down the line.
Absolutely. I think thank you so much, Arup. So audience, this is Arup Bose for all of us. I think, and as I said right in the beginning, that Srishti Publishers and Distributors has been doing something which makes it absolutely in a unique spot, unique league of its own across the country. And thank you, Arup. Thank you so much for your time, despite a very busy schedule, despite some of these glitches which we faced on the way of interaction. But I think it has been lovely interacting with you. And this is just the beginning, and we will certainly look forward to more interactions with you. Thank you so much for your time, and have a lovely and amazing Saturday and weekend.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Arun. Thank you for having me over. It was a pleasure. Looking forward to our next interaction. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.